Hi everybody. Welcome to chapter 21 of Outed. We're getting close to the end for this book, and that makes me a little bit sad because I enjoyed working with the characters, with Jared and Mitch and Edna and all the other people in the book. It was a fun book for me to write. I always get kind of melancholy towards the end of a book because I spent so much time and energy working with all the characters that they become alive for me. The same thing happens with all of my books, even my short stories. Let's go ahead and get started with this one. And thank you for joining me for the lives of Jared and Mitch. Let's begin. We'll start with Jared's point of view. What should I do when I remembered our kiss and dancing? Last night, compared to other times, was pretty calm. Calmer people, calmer dancing, and no sex, no beers, no hangover, and an amazing kiss. I needed a beer to think this through. I had taken a selfie of Mitch and me sitting on the hospital bed and made it the new background for my phone. Each time I saw Mitch in that picture, I relived the horror of last weekend. I didn't want to drink, but I sure could drink to that. I didn't know who I was anymore, what I knew. I wouldn't let Mitch down again. If that meant not drinking, then I would give up the alcohol. But what about the girls and the sex? Could Mom be right? Was all the meaningless dates just that? Meaningless? Years ago, I tried to cultivate some type of relationship with them, and a couple had lasted for months. Lately, I was lucky for a relationship to last 6 hours. How do I feel about Mitch? Talking last night had been different, meaningful. Was I gay or bi? Was Mom right and I had to get to know people first? Bailey hadn't only destroyed Mitch's life, but the way I looked at the world, at myself. I was falling behind. Cup after cup, I sped through the orders until I got to the next cup. Decaf. Black. Mitch's order. A rubber band held a condom. Of course, the cashier tried not to laugh. I looked up. Mitch stood there. Green shirt, khaki shorts, longboard, helmet. Hair pulled back in a braid and a loose strand falling out of his hat. Lime green backpack on his back. He didn't look like Mitch. Not with half his face looking like a Rorschach test. And he wasn't wearing black. "Hey," Mitch said, and pulled up a stool next to the coffee machine. I came by for a coffee. Thought I'd say hi. Something about the way he leaned away from me, or spoke just a hint too fast, made me wonder what bothered him. "You okay?" I finished Mitch's order and handed him the cup. "I was going to ask you the same question." Mitch sniffed the cup as if he were in heaven. "This is going to sound really weird." I leaned on the counter and threw a stir stick into Mitch's coffee. "I wasn't drunk. I nearly screwed up the entire night trying to make you have fun. We stood on the dance floor pretending to be a tree. Everything was weird, but it was actually one of my better dates." I had fun too. Mitch took a sip. "Sorry about the shirt." "I think that you are about to use the word but, aren't you?" I said. "But I don't want things to be weird between us." Mitch set his coffee down and played with the stir stick. "If you want, we can chalk last night up to you comforting a friend. We don't have to do it again." "We could do that, but there's one little problem with your idea." I walked around the coffee machine and the bar and took a seat next to Mitch. "What if I liked it?" "Then you're a mixed-up mess just like me," Mitch said. I didn't know what kind of vibe I was getting from Mitch, but I could tell he needed someone. Mom was right. Last Saturday had broken him and left him vulnerable. "Hey, I'm taking 10, I yelled back to the cashier. "Come on." I pulled Mitch outside into the morning heat and under the Java Dive awning. "I know why you really came here." "I came here for the coffee," Mitch said. "You make good coffee." Liar. Morning after effect. I sat on the curb and gestured for Mitch to join me. I was drunk. I took you home. We had a lot of fun. You fell asleep. Woke up the next morning. And you want to know if I still like you, or am I so disgusted that I want you out of the house? Am I that pathetic? Mitch said. I nodded. Couple of problems with the theory. I wasn't drunk. Neither were you. We only danced and kissed. I took you home because we both lived there, and we didn't have sex. We woke up, and I think we knew each other's names. Mitch took a sip of coffee, then said, Are we okay? Let's find out. Close your eyes, I said. Mitch closed his eyes, and I leaned forward and gently kissed him on the nose. I don't think your eye is swollen anymore. I leaned over a little more and lightly kissed the cheek. Is your cheek still as sensitive? A little. How about other places? I brushed my lips against Mitch's, dropping my voice to a whisper. I'm okay with us. How about you? You're messing with my... I closed my lips with Mitch's, lightly tracing my tongue along Mitch's lower teeth. Mitch froze, holding his breath, eyes closed. This was what he needed. This is what I needed. I withdrew a little. Maybe we're both not okay. Maybe we are. But I think I liked dancing with you, Mr. Parker. And I'd like to do it again. Maybe tonight. We'll put some slow-moving CD in your truck and we can slow dance in the backyard. I'd like that. Mitch stared at the sky and grinned. I'm never going to put anything back in the right spot today. Serves you right. I stood and pulled Mitch to his feet. I don't know what I am anymore. Heterosexual with delusions of gayness. Maybe gay, maybe bi, maybe mom's right and I'm demi. I don't know. But what I do know, Mitch Parker, is that you become very important to me. I don't know where we're going or what we have between us, but I'm willing to go the distance if you are. I am, Mitch said. Good. I'm okay. Are you okay? Mitch nodded. Next time, I come over to your work and we make out in the break room, I said. Then added something a little bit dangerous. Boyfriend. Mitch's eyes shot open. Mitch. A little after 3, I rode my longboard back to the Parker house. The sweat kept running down my face, but I ignored it. Jared had used the boyfriend word. My stomach got all wobbly when I thought about that. I wasn't sure if it excited me or scared me. I expected Bailey to come around yelling and screaming and spoiling everything, just like he had done with Raoul. Jared was too precious. What he meant to me was beyond anything I could explain. I only wanted to keep Jared safe. Everything had changed in one terrible, horrible weekend. I rode up to the Parker house, hopped off my longboard, and stowed it in the truck. Mrs. Jackson opened her door and peeked out. Mitch, I hope you're hungry. I talked to Edna and I'm bringing dinner over later. Pork chops, asparagus, and a light lemon cake. Easy on the sugar. Thanks, Mrs. Jackson. What's the occasion? You've done all those nice things for me, she said. It's my turn to do something for you. Now run inside. This heat will fry an egg. I ran inside. I didn't argue because I agreed with her. It was that hot. The swamp cooler thundered, struggling to keep the temperature somewhat cool. Why hadn't I moved out of the monster house sooner? Come here and escaped Bailey? Why did I even want to see Bailey again? What was the point? I didn't have to. The police had everything I could give them, even my journal. But I couldn't get past the thought that I had caused the collapse of my family. I walked past Edna's empty chair and into the kitchen. She was busy making something, just like usual. Cookies, based on the little round circles on the pan. One batch was done, and cooling on a towel in the corner. Hey, Edna. She turned as I entered, her eyes a little red. She moved a little slower than normal. How was work today? She asked. Usual. They might have a cashier position I could try for, which means an extra $2 an hour. I pulled up a chair at the table and pulled out my test kit. Something's bothering you. Can I help? I could say the same thing to you. She hobbled over to me and took my chin in her hand and rotated my face. Bruising still looks bad, but the swelling's gone down. How's the cast? It aches, especially if I move my fingers like this. I held my hand in a position as if I were stocking a shelf. Don't hold your hand like that, Edna said, cackling. That's an easy one to solve. What's really eating you? The other night, Bailey kept screaming about how I ruined the family and it's all my fault. I prepped the test strip, pricked my finger, and took a reading. Everything was good at home until Bailey discovered my secret, and things only stayed good when I acted straight. What if, in trying to be me, I did destroy our family? You're going to drive yourself crazy with that one. I had similar thoughts when I divorced Scott 5 years ago, but we had many problems. Our relationship had been falling apart long before we finally got a divorce. I bet it was the same with your folks. Bailey discovering the truth was only a toothpick on a much bigger set of issues. You're probably right, as usual. I recorded the results and put the kit in the backpack. Doesn't it get old being right all the time? Hell no. She chuckled and arranged the cookie dough on one of the flat pans. Now, before you ask, I've written a list of all our bills and divided it up between the three of us. I tried to figure what would be the best price for renting a couch. So I've got some numbers I want you to look at. It's in the living room by my chair. Problem is, what's fair for you also needs to be fair for Jared. Are you sure you want to do this? You don't have to. That's who I am. I sealed up the backpack. Your turn. What's bothering you? She placed the cookie sheet in the oven, closed it, and turned around to face me. I've been in denial. Somewhere between commercials and infomercials and soaps and morning news and evening news and a million phone calls and Amazon deliveries, my boys have grown up. They've sat in that damn chair and missed your life and Jared's life. She pulled the chair out and sat, and the chair creaked under her. She wiped at her eyes with a kitchen towel. I've never been to the Java Dive or seen any of your belt ceremonies or even left this house for 2 or 3 years. I think the last time I left was yours and Jared's graduation. It's okay, I said. Nobody blames you. She snorted. I blame myself. So here I am making cookies that are so unhealthy that you would go into a coma just looking at them, feeling sorry for myself. This is all because of last night, isn't it? I said. Maybe in part. She stood, leaning on the table. Maybe I've had enough of talk shows and game shows and late-night hosts. To tell you the truth, I don't care who Jared wants to be with, just as long as he's happy. I must be tired, or maybe my glucose headed south. But I interpreted what Edna said differently. Did you just give me the okay to have sex with Jared? For a moment, Edna didn't say anything. Her mouth dropped a little, and she stared at me, as if I spoke Cantonese. I could almost see the thoughts ricocheting around her brain, and then it finally sank home. I can't believe you said that. Jared's right. You are a pervert. She laughed and flicked the towel at me. Go get doing whatever you're going to do. I'll make something you can eat when I get these done. I'm loading the truck for a trip to the city dumps tonight. Anything back there you want to keep? I asked. Maybe the tree if you don't karate it to death. Back in the living room, I set my backpack by my growing pile of clothes. I had 10 or 15 things, all folded at the side of the couch. Look out, Jared. Who's the clothes whore now? I pulled the truck to the side of the house, put in the Damned to the Dead debut CD, turned the volume up, but not so loud it would annoy Mrs. Jackson. I started tossing things in the back. Damned to the Dead, a local band, had a good beat, but they lacked the fury of Suicide Queens or the pathos of 13 Hells. Give them a little experience and they could rival any group, if they stayed sober long enough. That was one of the trademarks of 13 Hells, sober and drug-free. with an emotional undercurrent that none of the other groups possessed. Well, Nightmare Diablo sort of had it, but they tried to be more like Suicide Queens. Nobody had a sound like 13 Hells. Loading the truck would be a lot more fun if Jared was here. I tossed an old tire rim in the back, and then an old hubcap, then a dozen old tires. Mr. Parker collected a lot of old car parts, and a couple of old cars. Jared, sober. Why didn't he understand? Maybe drinking was something I would never understand. I never cared to. Bailey took the blame for that. Beer had been the excuse for why Bailey acted as he did. But it wasn't the beer. It was just one of Bailey's moods. An old microwave joined the other trash in the truck. It didn't matter, moods or beer. It amounted to the same thing at the Monster House. I would never touch the stuff. The Damned of the Dead CD ended, and I walked over to my truck and replaced the CD with Suicide Queens. Then there was our kiss, and the dancing, and another kiss, and more dancing, and talking. Something deep had happened last night, and scary, and wonderful. When I thought back, I either smiled or wondered when the dream would end. Another scorching day in the Butte. I wiped my face with the hem of my shirt. Somehow, I had to figure out how to clean the sky blue silk. God, Jared knew how to kiss. I leaned against a rotting car, closed my eyes, and remembered the thrill as Jared's tongue slipped past my lips and tickled my tongue. My dick started to harden. Blame last night on the coffee. Don't give me caffeine. Rebel was right, though. Last weekend had hurt Jared more than it had hurt me. Mitch! Mrs. Jackson yelled from the back stairs, holding the door open. Was it time for dinner already? I hadn't seen Jared come home. The little old woman had something frantic about her eyes. Mitch, come quickly. Jared. Every time I looked over at the cashier, she laughed. Of course she had seen me and Mitch kissing in the parking lot. Of course she was the one who had helped Mitch with his good luck charm last week. And she drew little hearts with every cup she sent to get filled. You watch it. I could get so jealous, she said on a lull. How did you meet a cutie like him? You don't think I'm cute? I could play along. Well, boy next door kind of cute. He's the bad boy you don't take home to Mama. She laughed, and suddenly there was a line of customers. I'll have you know that Mom likes him, I said. Your mom has a wild side, she said. She doesn't. She just likes it when he does the dishes, and floors, and laundry, and beds, and dusting. Maybe she likes the foster kid better than me. I couldn't win. Now I was jealous of how Mitch did the laundry. More customers, plus tomorrow's delivery of bagels, then the start of the late afternoon rush. I don't like his music, though, the cashier said, placing another cup in my lineup. That makes two of us. He's proud of it. Can quote lyrics, band members, you name it. More customers. Then I had to refill the creamers and brew more of some South American label. Java Dive was famous for its variety. Well, famous in the Butte. After 4, we usually don't have many customers. It gave me time to straighten the tables and chairs, while the cashiers wiped everything clean. Our other helper organized the pastries. It might not look like it, but it took a lot of work to run the dive. I couldn't blame the cashier. Mitch was nice to look at and to talk to. Bad boy you don't take home to Mama. Mom would like that one. Mitch would roll his eyes. What if Mitch and I could get an apartment together? Had time to talk, figure things out. Mom was right as usual. We should take our time. What's the rush? I needed to call Michaela, explain what had happened last night. I didn't know what had happened last night. 1 minute, it was the worst date I've ever had. Then we were slow dancing until closing. I snorted. A nice date. No fireworks, no sex, no alcohol. And I had enjoyed myself, enjoyed being with Mitch. I had the best night I could ever remember. I couldn't explain the way I felt toward Mitch, and I wouldn't even know how to. I loved him. I called him my boyfriend. Boyfriend. I smiled as I pushed a chair in. Why did the word feel so natural? Head in the game, the cashier said as a group of 12 customers walked in the door. Iced coffees and frappuccinos for everyone. I had dreamed of sharing an apartment with Mitch, but now it meant something different. We'd probably need 2 bedrooms, one for my wardrobe, and the other one for me and Mitch. Hold it. I was thinking of sharing a room with my best friend after only one kiss. Well, dancing and kissing, and talking. Maybe a little mild flirting. But was I fantasizing about sharing a bed with Mitch? My hands shook a little and I fought a smile. God help me. I was. How would I explain this to Michaela? To Mom? Mitch even? Hey, bad boy's here. The cashier pointed to the front. Mitch's ugly truck pulled in, taking up 3 spaces, just like Donna's Maserati. Old junk filled the bed of the truck. His music screamed so loud some of the patrons plugged in their headphones and turned the volume up. Mitch didn't step out of his truck. He shoved open the door and leaped out, stumbled, and ran to the Java Dive entrance. He left the truck door open. He never turned the truck off, and his music was louder than ever when he pushed open the door to the dive. I'd date him, the cashier said. Face flushed, green shirt sweat-stained and dirty, hair flying about his head as he pulled the hat on, trying to tame it. Mitch yelled, "You need to come right now. The ambulance is taking Edna to Long Ridge.